This episode is sponsored by Alberta Blue Cross and was created to help inspire discussions around the importance of taking care of your health, whether it be mental, physical, social, or even financial. We are proud to provide our Socality House team members with Alberta Blue Cross employee health benefits to help them live their best lives. Everyone, welcome to this Socality show. My name is Scott Bakken with Socality, and I'm really excited about today's conversation. We are talking today about conflict resolution within friendships and relationships. And I know this is going to be a big one because it is a real thing. But let me take a minute to introduce our panel, and then we're going to dive right in. All right, we've got McDonald. I love your bio because it's, I love how you start out with, is a colorblind commercial photographer. It's very important to know. And a co-founder of Rome Creative, a Western Canadian-based film production and commercial photography studio. Jay is a product of Socality and the original Alpine Daddy. And beside him, we've got Levi Washington, business management by day, author, poet, and TikToking head by night, who focuses on self-awareness, self-improvement, and redefining love. And we've got Rihanna Lauren. I'm going to need your help again. Also known as Caedance, is the co-founder of People Are Pearls. Queen Dem. And the production house?
Areia Creative.
All right, you said it. She is biracial, multilingual artist, songwriter, community activator, and event and multimedia producer born and raised in Calgary, Alberta. She is passionate about cross-cultural learning, bringing people together and for unforgettable memories and empowering excellent art. Yes, you are. And it is great to have you guys here today. We have got the right panel to be talking about this conversation, working through conflict in relationships. And we're talking about relationships in any aspect, marriage, friendship. We all know what it's like as creators out there. You meet people, you become best friends, you hang out, and at some point in time, there's going to be a conflict, like personalities. We've all had roommates, back before I was married. I lived with a group of guys, and you always have like, everything starts out great, and then it's like this person didn't do the dishes, and before you know it, there's chaos and anarchy. And you got to sit down and resolve things. But we've all had this, especially in the social media world, where you meet, things get intense online, and it's hard as well when, there's a group of friends, or there's always something goes south within that group, and then people feel loyalty to like one person, and then they're like, but I'm still friends with them, and then they're mad at you because you're still friends with them because they have beef with the other. Are you following what I'm saying? We're all here. And so, but there comes a time where we can't run from our issues, we got to face things head on. So I think this is going to be a good conversation. You know what I'm saying? Rihanna, have you... I know that if why are you laughing?
I'm stressed. I'm sweating. But yes, please, let's talk.
Conflict resolution. So
go there.
There's a tension between you and somebody else. Okay. How are you dealing with this tension? Are you the person that kind of runs away from it and ignores it? Or are you going to tackle it head on?
I'm not that person at all.
How?
It depends on the nature of the relationship.
Okay. So you assess it first.
Very much so. Are we dating? Are we best friends? Are we acquaintances? Are we collaborators? And
that dictates how you're going to approach it.
Absolutely. Okay. Yes. Am I the person? So I'm not bothered by conflict, and I am the type of person who would really prefer to have an open, honest conversation. I like to get to the bottom of things and understand. I deeply want to be seen, heard, and understood, and I deeply want to see, hear, and understand the other person. So for me, it's hard for me, and this is something like on the kind of health side, like it historically, it has been hard for me at times in the past where, if someone's not interested in having a conversation, or whoever was in the wrong, doesn't matter. And so I've had to learn about, we are not fixers as people. Sometimes we just have to let things go. But then on the other hand, actually a term that I recently learned about that has been around for a long time, apparently my mom told me, because I was like, this word, and she was like, that's been around for a long time.
Sorry?
Is stonewalling. Are you guys familiar with stonewalling? No. So I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not going to quote this 100%, but essentially stonewalling is not having the willingness to communicate And there's a few elements of it, and or like leaving a situation or conversation without giving a determined amount of time that you're going to come back. So for example, if I say to you, I'm not having this conversation anymore. No, I can't. I just need time.
Right.
And I don't tell you like,
I hate that.
Yeah.
Or I don't say, you know what, I think of like a healthier alternative would be like, I'm not feeling blank, blank, blank right now. What I read online about it is like, you could say I'm feeling flooded. I need some space. Let's touch base in 3 days. Let's touch base in 24 hours.
Put a time frame on it.
Yeah. And it's actually a, not to get too, but it's actually a common tactic of people who are untreated narcissists. And so it's not that everyone who does that, because we're imperfect and we all, you know what I mean? But anyways, just to look back and say like, conversating, being willing, you know, or if I say, Jay, like, these are all my thoughts, negative stuff, critique, but I don't want to talk about it. I'm just letting you know, but I'm not willing to have a conversation. Well, that's not fair to you, that I'm just going to dump all my stuff and not even be open to talking. So that's something that I've been like,
so why would people do that? Why would they come and dump on somebody and then be like, but I don't want to talk about it? What's the motive?
I'll give one brief answer, and then I'd be curious to hear from someone else. What comes to mind is it's been really awesome to see our generation get so open with mental health and going into therapy and working on our stuff and honoring ourselves and looking at our trauma. I think that's excellent. And because we're humans, in the midst of doing that, we're going to make some mistakes. And something that I've noticed, and I'm sure I've made this mistake too, is sometimes in an effort to exercise a boundary, we're actually doing something else. So like someone could say, you know, oh, it's a boundary. I don't want to talk about this. That's a boundary. This is healthy, thinking that it is, not realizing that they're actually stonewalling or not realizing that they're actually dumping. So I don't always think it's a bad intention. I think sometimes it's a protection or a trauma response too. That's one of my thoughts. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, real quick, I want to ask you this because, you know, Socality is a community. We're a whole bunch of people locally and globally. And now we've got Socality House, a great creative space where people can come connect and create. And we were having coffee the other day, and you pointed out, I'm not going to name names, but a couple people that you've seen here where there's been some interactions where they haven't been positive. And you were telling me about how you were facing them head on and be like, I'm going to treat that person the same. I'm going to work through that issue. Maybe elaborate on that, because I thought that was super great approach, by the way. But it's very common that you're going to bump into people that you've had beef with. So talk to me a bit about how you've handled that and how did you arrive on that mentally?
I think there's so many different layers to it. Just to speak on what Rihanna was saying, the second I hear those words, like, you know, this, and this, but I don't want to talk about it, I'm literally like, I'm going to go put my lantern in the garage because I can see some gaslighting coming on here. Right? We're going to have a little narcissistic backyard, like, okay, this is great. This is fun. Stay away from that. You know, anybody who's like, oh, I didn't know I was doing it. That's garbage. Right. The idea of like boundaries. Boundaries is the new freaking chia seeds. Everyone's like, boundaries. We love boundaries. Right. Chia seeds. They're great for everything. Boundaries are great for everything. Like, you don't know what a boundary is. Yeah. You've never set one. Yeah. There's all these like double standards going on. They're like, that's a boundary for me. You're like, it wasn't 2 minutes ago. Like, what are we talking about?
But are they saying that as a communication blocker?
Oh, it's just garbage. Yeah. It's just, what's the point?
So what do you do? What do you do to push through that?
There's nothing you can do. If you're going to respect said boundaries. Right. And boundaries, when put in place, are fantastic. Right. Of course. But boundaries, I think, are also placed more on like past traumas. Is that triggering? Right. Like, or, you know, anything involved with that context. Right. If you're in any context or in any situation with somebody, it could be friendship, partnership, whatever, and they're like, oh, that's a boundary. We're not talking about that. And I'm like, well, if you can't tell me when we're going to talk about that, then that's not a boundary. That's essentially what you said. That's stonewalling.
Not exactly what I said. I'm still learning what you're saying. I'm not sure if that's what I said, but yeah, there's more to unpack in that topic. Like definitely there's more to unpack in that topic.
So with the beef, coming back to the beef, where's the beef?
Loves the beef.
Where's the beef?
I'm vegetarian, baby. No, so I mean,
because you've had interactions where you've been able to see people. Everyone has, exactly. Sorry, I don't want to paint you as like Mr. Conflict.
I've covered. I've done most of
You're painted.
Walking paint by numbers.
You're painted. But what do you do in these situations when we're talking about tackling the issues, facing it head on? Like, do you just go up to the person and say, we have beef, let's chat?
No, absolutely not. So my whole thing is that time either promotes you or exposes you.
Okay.
No matter what, in any context.
Ooh, pause.
Ooh, that was a good one.
Time. Say that again for the people.
Time either promotes you or exposes you.
I
It's
like
as simple
it.
as that.
I like it.
And my thing with getting into quarrels with people or getting into a fight or whatever it is, I grew up in a house that had a horrific divorce. Like, I think my parents were in the same room together for the first time in like 20 years at my brother's wedding like a month ago, and they still couldn't even look at each other, kind of thing.
Really?
It's so ridiculous, you know? And as you grow up and you go through different phases of life, you can see, you know, why certain things will be upsetting. But the amount of energy that you have to put into hating someone is absurd. Do you know how much brain space you could clear to watch 400 more TikToks if you didn't put that energy into hating someone?
Right.
I'm not friends with any of my former partners, but I have told friends being like friendly. We talk on a daily basis. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I'm not friends with any of my former partners. We don't talk on a daily basis, but I'm friendly with all of them.
Right.
And I will tell all of them, and I 100% mean it, you will never have to feel like you have to cross the street when you're walking the same direction as me. I will never make you feel that way. And there are, you know, I have lots of partners who are now dating other friends of mine, and we're at the same parties, and, you know, things are happening. The biggest thing is this idea of like cold shoulder, like, oh, I didn't see you. We're all human here. Okay. The cold shoulder, like exile, like that's the original form of torture. It's so ridiculous.
I saw someone in a coffee shop that I knew was trying to avoid me. Right?
It's
and
so
they're
weird.
and I went up to them intentionally and said, "Hi, how are you?" Because I'm not upset at them.
Totally.
But I know that they're purposely trying to ignore me.
Right.
And the moment they're like, "Hey, I didn't see you there." I'm like, "Yes, you did. Yeah. I know you did." But I didn't say that. But I know you know me. But I'm like, I'm going to let them know that I'm okay with them. And
why? Sorry, I know you're the host, but
no, this is good. I'm also
do not challenge the host.
No,
I'm curious.
I think it's important for people, because I think it's a good question, because I think that people get upset about something and they carry the weight. And it's like, you know what? We're adults. We're grown up people. You're doing your thing. I'm doing my thing. It's important for you to know I'm not angry at you. I'm not mad at you. And we might have had a disagreement or didn't see eye to eye in the past, but that does not mean we can't be kind to each other.
Whether you're angry or not, you can be angry, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But you don't have to treat a person like a piece of garbage.
Well, because
like a piece of gum stuck in the bottom of your shoe.
And you still exist.
We're
like,
also humans.
Do you know what I mean? Then, like, and you still exist. Like,
fully.
You know what I mean?
If somebody ends up in a hospital bed the next day, I'm going to assume, now I don't know the situation, I'm going to assume you're going to feel pretty bad.
Yeah.
You're going to immediately flip back to positive memories you have with those people. Unless every interaction was negative. And then in that case, stop going back to that toxic person. Don't do that.
Well, and to your point about your parents, like, no weight is worth carrying around that much. You know, where it's like, you say they couldn't interact for 20 years. Like, why? What was so bad? You haven't been together. Why have they not been able to move past?
Like, at this point, they've been apart in my life longer than they were together.
Right.
And it's still like this absurd. And when it bleeds into other things, like into the wedding or like, you know, whatever, it's like, man, keep that stuff up.
But watching that inspired you to be like, I don't want to be like that.
I think what happened is I saw people take sides.
Right.
I saw family take sides.
Yes.
Right. And I don't think that's necessary.
Yes. This is what people do in conflict. And maybe you can say this, and it happens all the time with friends, is you are hurt by someone and you immediately want everyone to come to your side, be on my side. And so that what they do is they go for coffee with all their friends, they tell the story, and they want to build a little army with them. And they almost want to isolate that person and make them feel, you know, like, you're on the out, and look, I've got an army that I've built with me, and we all hate you. Yeah. This is so unhealthy.
Well, and if it didn't affect you, like maybe they hurt your friend in some context, or there was a miscommunication or whatever it is. But like if somebody T-bones Rihanna's car the next time they're driving down the street, I'm not going to pull the car over and get out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to like stay away from, well, I'm not driving because Rihanna's on the road. Like it's so ridiculous. And I'm not like trying to be these people's best friends, but I'll always make eye contact if I can. You know, there's often like it's like exactly you said, you're not stupid. No one's dumb. We all see this happen.
Yeah.
But I'll always say, hey, it's nice to see you. That's it. I don't need to find out about your life. It's none of my business. Like, you know, any of these things. And for the most part, I've seen, at least in my life, I've seen a number of those individuals, the vast majority of them. I'm trying to think of one that hasn't. They've all come around at some point.
Right.
You know, because if the intention's not malicious and nobody was traumatized forever, you know, again, different situations.
Right.
But yeah, it's just not worth it. Put that effort somewhere else.
I think Tupac said it best for me. The way that I'd paraphrase it is, just because you lost me as a friend doesn't mean that I'm your enemy. I want you to eat, just it won't be at my table. And that for me has always been like, that's the way to be. And it has given me so much freedom, just blessing the people that have hurt me. That's where I really found freedom, with whether it was with my exes or people that have wronged me. It's like, I still want you to succeed. I still want the best for you. And that doesn't mean that I need to bring you back into my life. That doesn't mean that we're going to be cool. But hey, man, like that door's open. And if you need a place to hide from the storm, I still got you. But it doesn't mean that you're going to have a spot in my life.
I feel weird that you haven't invited me over for dinner in a while.
What's interesting, what I'm thinking about in this, and this is not every situation, I think a lot of really important things have been said. And also, because I'm thinking of like various situations in my life off of what everyone was saying, where like, yeah, some situations are A, B. I really appreciated what you highlighted about people's natural inclination to get like a tribe. Kind of on the topic that we were talking about earlier with the stonewalling or anything that is like whether it's full on abuse or mistreatment or just something sick. It's interesting because having been on the receiving end of that a couple times in life, it's hard because the nature of those things, whether it's untreated narcissism or just somebody in narcissistic tendencies or whatever the thing is, you feel silenced. And so I think like when I look back at some of my breakups, like most of my exes, I'm very like, I think they're great people. We see them, you know what I mean? And then there's a couple where I'm like, you know what I mean? It kind of messed with me because like what happened wasn't okay. And then it's hard because the nature of those things are isolating. And so then you want to like, not be hurt to get an army, but because you're like, that's, you know what I'm saying? I just wanted to mention that.
Would you rather go back in a year or like 6 months or something like that and be like, hey, I would like to have closure? Like, is that something you've done or would like to do? Or is it just like, I got stomped out, that's it, I'm done?
think just being realistic about like if people aren't willing to engage, then they're not, and like having acceptance. I kind of don't believe in closure. I think closure comes from time. I don't think we actually get closure from sitting down and talking with, like, it's this idea that we have. But I think like, you know what? It's part of the reason why art is so powerful and why there's so many songs about these things. Like, yes, sometimes people are just mad and want to express feelings or whatever, which is fine, or they're hurt. But I think sometimes it's actually like I didn't get to speak. I was treated poorly or maybe even beyond that. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make something, you know what I mean? So I think like my response to the like couple of instances I've had like that is more so like, I know I have to have acceptance. And even if we could, what's the point? Like what, you know what I mean? So let me make art that can maybe help someone else feel seen and understood, whether it's in the pain or the clarity. And that's even why I'm starting to talk about some of these terms like on this podcast and stuff, is because I'm like, when I learned the terms, and you know, when you read, so like I have ADHD, you know, like when you read through the ADHD, you're like, oh my gosh, that's me. You're like, this makes sense. It put words to everything you know what I mean?
Right.
It's kind of like that, reading through like, oh my gosh, there's a word for this. And you look back on your life and you're like, oh my God, it's like kind of healing. And so I just want other people to know these terms so that we can recognize, oh, wait a minute, this is not okay. You know what I mean? So
I feel like if Taylor Swift was here right now, she would be like, I feel so seen. I do.
Taylor, she's got a new album
I
coming
feel
out.
so seen right now.
Yeah, okay,
Do you?
That's a big part of why I started writing.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I like the point about closure, because for me, what I always say is closure is internally decided. It's not externally provided, right? And
Do you do that?
it's
This
things
Yes.
for you.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing that I was thinking about when I was just thinking about what you were saying about the stonewalling and kind of pushing somebody off, like not having that, I'm not having this conversation. They just like take off. They don't give you a timeline. Sometimes what I will find in that pattern is maybe that's something like, you know, their parents would do that to them. Like they wouldn't want to deal with their emotions, so they send them on timeout. No, that's your emotions are too much for me. I'm not dealing with that. And then I isolate you. And so now
Interesting.
that's actually how they punish people.
Interesting.
Do you think it's intentionally punished though? Here's my other question. If you think about attachment styles, I don't know if anyone's familiar with attachment styles, but I'm totally mansplaining and paraphrasing, but there's essentially like, there's anxious, like, I don't want to talk about it. There's anxious avoidant. So they just avoid the problem entirely.
Right.
There's
secure.
Thank you. Which is like, I'm secure. We can talk about this. This is how I feel. And what was the last one?
I thought there was only 3. Isn't it anxious, avoidant, and secure?
I think they added a 4th one. If I'm not,
just to write a new book.
Yeah,
we just got to think of another one.
Okay, yeah.
But anyways,
we get the gist.
Based on people's experiences as a child, that could essentially determine how they react to something. So for me, I wouldn't say I'm like secure. I'm like, I'm great. I'm perfect and everything. Like if that's somebody, you're a narcissist. If it's, I would say I'm probably like a little bit anxious maybe of like, I had sudden loss when I was a kid. My older brother died. I remember I was the first person to get the phone call. I was the last person to see him. And so when I say to someone, hey, I'd like to talk about this, and then it goes cold, that speaks to me differently.
Right.
That is triggering. Right. And so, and it's a different context for each person in each scenario. Now if somebody's like using that against you, that's just bad news on the flip side. But again, maybe they're not doing it intentionally. I feel like I try to find the best in people, or like assume the best, but also have enough level ground and emotional intelligence and awareness to also kind of guard my own heart. And on the flip side, if we're talking like very relationally, if this is business and you own a business or whatever, don't be a dick.
Right.
That's very simple.
Right.
As best as you can, try to be,
right.
civil and happy with everyone. Because if you are in a meeting and you're in a restaurant, people can feel energy, and somebody sits down beside you, and candle goes out, like they'll see that. What's up? Why is that happening? That kind of thing. It bleeds into other areas of your life.
I think what you said about the kindness statement, like we've talked about so many things. To me, that's almost like, it's not like the point, but like it's an underlying point of everything we're saying, because I'm trying not to directly quote someone, but yeah, I experienced something once where the person again felt like they were like standing up for what they were learning, and which is great and beautiful, but they weren't kind. And so I was kind of like, I think that's the huge point. Like no matter what we're going through, we're all imperfect. A lot of us have trauma responses. A lot of us do wild stuff. Like, you know what I mean? But can we be kind? Like, can I be hurt? Can I be deeply offended? Can I be really frustrated, but still be kind or cordial? And if not, like maybe come back to it another time. I think.
Yeah, take it out on TikTok later.
Right.
Levi. That's important.
Assume positive intent for sure. Cause I think most people aren't doing things maliciously.
But like, even if it's not malicious, it could still be harmful. That's the part that's concerning me right now.
Definitely, it can still be harmful. But I don't think, like, assuming that positive intent, and if you can't handle what is going on there and calling people up rather than calling them out all the time, I don't know. It's an interesting kind of dynamic to have with people. But I do, once again, jam with that. It's just like assuming that positive intent, because they're not always trying to do it to hurt you, even though what they're doing is hurtful.
Interesting.
Right.
I wonder, I wonder what it's like if you take a step back and you look at your own self as well. Like you talk about this a lot. When you look and you see, like you're saying, oh, what if I am the common denominator? I can't remember what the poem is. It's something along the lines of like, if love was labeled poison, we would drink it anyway, which we've all done crazy things. Like love makes you do crazy things. Now I'm going back away from work and back into like love stuff. But there was a family psychologist that once said, humans prefer the certainty of misery over the misery of uncertainty.
Ooh.
It hurts less to just go back to what I know hurts and I know how to accept that pain than to go out there and maybe get hurt worse or in a different way that I don't know how to, build up some callous to. Wow. And so when you're looking at these relationships, are they the same type of people? Mm-hmm. Are you putting yourself there? Like what's going on here?
Do you think with conflict, when you meet with somebody, you're talking through, what do you think our goal should be? Do you think it should be to like get back to the way things were? Do you think it should be to resolve? Do you think it should just be because I needed to get it off my chest? Like what is the goal when we go into conflict resolution?
I wait till their guard goes down.
Yeah.
And I just throw them a dusty elbow. I'm watching too much UFC on Instagram.
But you mean like, when you do conflict resolution, when you say, I'm going to meet you up for coffee, what's our goal? Like what should our goal be? Because I feel like sometimes is it possible to go back to the way things were when like trust is broken or you're hurt? Like, is that possible to get back, or are we just trying to get to the point where we're okay to see each other in public?
Here's the thing with seeing each other in public. I think this is very different today than it was 40, 50 years ago. 40, 50 years ago, you had your family, your work, and then your closest friends. That was 40 people, maybe, right? Now, you've got access to the whole world.
Right.
And like, if you block someone, people make side accounts. People that say they don't, that's BS. You know, it's so easy to see these people every single day.
Right.
So you've talked about this before, but where you like, it's like an IV drip of like, you're never fully separating. And so not only are you going to see them, but you're going to see them everywhere.
Right.
And
you can't run.
Exactly.
Right.
Do something about it.
Right. So what should our goal be? You know, we always want to help people. So we've kind of diagnosed some things. What are some ways that we can bring some conflict resolution into friendships, relationships? Like, what should we be doing proactively? Is there some tactics that we can be applying when it comes to, you know, sometimes I do believe time is a healer. Like, you got to give some things space because you might not be ready to talk and I am, but it's like, you got to let things breathe. What are some ways that we could be approaching? I'll start with you, Rihanna. Maybe just encourage people, a couple tips that they can do to, you said something at the beginning, you said you're not afraid of conflict, but a lot of people are. That's not normal. So because you're going in thinking like, I'm okay with this space, but a lot of people are intimidated by conflict. Like I'm a people pleaser. Like that's my natural, you know, thing so I want everyone to be happy. So the moment I know you're disappointed with me, I'm just like, no, what can I do to fix it? You know, because I hate letting people down. Yeah, I'm a people pleaser. I've worked on it. People, you know, I can be quite direct with what I say, but I'm very much a people pleaser.
Next time we're talking budgets, I'm just going to go.
Yeah. There's no room in the budget. There's no room in the budget. I wish there was, but there's just not. If it was my money.
Oh my God.
I'm disappointed.
But okay, do you know what I'm saying? So give us some tips, because you know, you're obviously not afraid of conflict, but talk to people to encourage people to resolve their issues.
I will like to clarify something. It's not that I'm not intimidated by it, but I choose not to live in that space because, like, for me, so some of my core values are like truth, honesty, clarity. Like those are some of my core guiding values in my life. So I think that's part of why it's like I would rather hear honesty, be honest, know what the truth is, and have clarity. And it's like, if from that place you're mad or I'm mad or you're like, that's okay. But for me, and this might not be right or wrong, I'm just saying for me, I just want to make sure that we both or we all knew the truth, because what I've found often is when you do talk, oh, I thought you were saying, most times it's, oh, I thought you meant this and I felt this way. I didn't realize that. Well, I felt, and so it's not that it's not always going to resolve the conflict, but for me personally, if we're going to be sad or upset or distant or whatever, I just would love the opportunity to know that it's for a reason and not because we had a miscommunication.
So some personal resolve as well.
What do you mean by that?
So then you go, okay, maybe I was upset over this, but now I can land and be okay because you weren't intentionally trying to say what you said.
I'm not fully sure I'm following, to be honest.
Okay.
But
I'm saying sometimes it's important when you meet with somebody because you're also trying to diagnose the issue of like what went wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm generally open to like, if someone is upset or hurt or something by me, I would love to sincerely know why.
Right.
And then maybe I go away and you know what I mean?
Okay.
So I think for me, that's I think intention is probably like an answer to your question is self-reflection first. Okay. What is my intention of reaching out? Am I doing this to be a people pleaser? Am I doing this out of love? You know, am I doing, and if it's not out of love, then what am I doing anyways? Like, what is the fruit that could come from this? You know what I mean? And so, and I'm also big on, again, like the spiritual element, whatever your beliefs are, like get grounded. And I can't say I've done that every time in my life. And when I don't, it's not usually great, but like, you know what? I'm feeling grounded. I don't know why. I feel like I need to reach out. I'm feeling prompted. You know what I mean?
Right.
So.
Real quick, because we've got a few minutes left. Jay, encourage our people that are listening when it comes to conflict resolution.
I just feel like I'm the wrong person to be on this podcast now because you were listing off your values. You're like kindness, truth. I was like my values. I was like chicken, pot pie. You know, last time I got grounded, I was like I stole my dad's Visa card.
No, you were talking about how you don't want the person on the sidewalk to run away from you. You've intentionally thought that.
It's because my cardio sucks. That's the only reason. Coming to get you. Repeat the question. You have two ADHD people on this podcast.
Encourage people on how they can and why they should bring conflict resolution to relationships.
Everyone's human, and that's the bottom line.
Right.
I love you. I love everyone that I see. Mm-hmm. I try to. You know, your energy is just better spent elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Like it's just not worth it.
Right.
You know, think about what happens to your body, like in a visceral, physical reaction. Our mind is so powerful. You can be reacting as if there's a physical bear in the room, right? You're sweating, your muscles are getting tense, all these things. And you're like, you haven't talked to this person in 6 months. And it was such a goofy little thing. And they're just making it weird because they just won't look, you know? Mm-hmm. But like, I know you know me, right. That kind of thing. So just love everyone. Okay. It's not worth it. Your time's better spent elsewhere.
Right.
You know, and acknowledge everyone. Treat them with kindness. It's so simple.
Nice. Levi?
Oh, I got a few things. I
Yes,
guess.
Sam. We got some time. We're digging deep.
Okay, so first of all, try not to engage with people who aren't interested in finding common ground. Because if they're not interested in finding common ground and creating space for each other's experiences and feelings, there's no point. It's not going to go anywhere, you know. And then to go from there, you got to validate each other's feelings. Whether I understand why you felt that way or why you understood what I said or why you took it this way or that way, I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me, but it makes sense to you. And I have to validate that first and foremost. Because if I can't at least create space for that and what you feel and your experiences in life, then I'm just basically saying, you have to think like me and be like me and have my experiences and my bias, or else you're wrong. And that's not a good place. And you'll never get any sort of conflict resolution there. And then I think as well, we really have to understand when we get into fight or flight, nothing happens from there. Like once you get emotionally flooded, it's over. Your peripherals go in. It's just like, I'm either here to attack you or I'm here to run. It's one or the other. So you actually have to create that. Like, that's when you do have to take that step back. Hey, I need like 20 minutes to breathe. You change your body posture. You go outside, you leave the room, you do something. And then you're like, I'm coming back. We're going to solve this. Because as soon as you get that emotions up, nothing good happens from there. That's when you say things you regret. And then once you say something, you can't take that back. And that will echo in their mind for the rest of the relationship, right? It doesn't matter what it says. And that's how you put little holes in that boat. That little thing that you said, that little thing that you said, the little thing that you said. And over time, you will sink, right? And then further from that would be once you do get emotionally flooded and if you haven't, you know, quelled it or stopped it before it gets to this point, understand that you're not talking to a grown adult. You're talking to whatever they learned to resolve conflict with when they were a kid, whether it was to raise their voice, whether it was to run away, whatever they learned when they were 7, 8, 9 in their experiences, and that worked then, and they're still doing that now because they just haven't learned anything better yet. And so it's like, we're just two kids trying to figure it out right now. And we got to create space for the inner child as well.
Wow. You got to stop dating kids, man.
Yeah. That was gold. You were bringing the gold.
Yeah, I was going to do this thing again.
We're going to wrap up, but just a few things. You know, with Socality, we are a creative community. Where creatives are, there's going to be some issues, you know, and we created Socality to be a space of belonging. And our biggest thing is like, we want people to dig into the friendships and relationships. The natural thing to do when conflict arises is to run away. But the problem is everywhere you go, you are there. And so if you don't deal with it within you, and if people are like a mirror, right? They're going to bring up your issues and reveal things inside of you don't like. And that's the best thing about community is, you know, we get to challenge each other, but we got to dig through it and stick through it because that's where we grow. And so I want to encourage everybody out there, you know, don't run away. Figure out how to come to the table to resolve, and whether the resolve brings you to becoming best friends again or just lets everything land and you grow as humans, that's good too. And we always want to create spaces where people feel comfortable to be in. So this has been a great conversation. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we will see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to hit like and subscribe. You can enjoy the audio version of this podcast wherever you consume your podcast. We'll see you soon.